Hi, this is Dr. Mogire from the House of Mastery. I want to share with you 5 powerful foundations of personal growth that I wish I had learned much earlier than when I came to learn them. I wish somebody had taught me these principles when I was in high school or even in primary school. The foundations of personal growth. You see, we grow up in the early parts of our lives in a very structured environment. We are born into a pair of hands that determines when we will feed, when we will sleep, when we will be cleaned up and our diapers changed. And soon we become toddlers and we join school, a structured environment where we spend up to 15 years of our lives. And soon we are in university or college and we are in a structured environment. And many of us end up in a work environment where we are in a structured environment. So we live a big share of our lives dependent on an external structure. This external structure determines what we will do, when we will do it, the cycles of our lives. It determines when we will be on holiday, when the weekend starts and when it ends, when we will be on vacation and how long vacation will be. It determines what time we show up at work, how much productivity we are expected to produce, how much we will be paid, when we will be paid. We live such a big share of our lives dependent on an external structure. Yet, personal growth encompasses areas that the people who control the external structure may not be interested in. The people who control the external structure may not be interested in you developing your linguistic skills, deepening your expertise in a specific subject that may not be of interest to your current employer. They may not be interested in you pursuing a passion that you've never shared anybody, but which you can never get rid of. The people who control the external structure won't support you when you want to leave the mainstream employment and pursue a business that you are passionate about, that you believe you have an opportunity in, or which you believe and you may not have an opportunity, but you need to make that leap so that you learn the lessons you need to learn and move on to the next step of your life. Unfortunately, that external structure ends up influencing almost everything in our lives to a point where if you don't get married by a certain age, an external structure starts being applied to you. When will you get married? Or you've been married for 4 years, we haven't seen any children. Or your children haven't gone to school, or your children haven't gone to a school that is equivalent to your status. The external structure influences and almost controls everything. Yet, for you and I, if we are going to grow to the depth we were created to grow and unearth from our lives the value that resides in there, we have to step beyond what the external structure requires of us and pursue a structure that will enable us to grow as deep as we can. And I want to share with you what I think are the 5 core principles that create the foundation for personal growth. So I call this the foundations of personal growth. The first foundation, and this won't come to you as any surprise. The first foundation is continuous learning. Continuous learning. It's a beautiful thing that from the time we are born, we learn all through our lives, from preschool through uh, pre-elementary school or primary school, depending on where you are, to high school, to college. We go through a curriculum, but it reaches a time when we are no longer under any curriculum. And unfortunately, we step out of curricula when we are mature enough to control our growth and grow the most. So the foundation of continuous learning becomes real for you if you take responsibility for yourself and create your own curriculum. Create your own curriculum of what you need to learn and create your own schedule. In other words, create your own curriculum and set your own goals for learning because you will not grow without learning. Create a curriculum for the areas you want to become better, for the areas you want to become Excellent. For the strengths you want to optimize, for the weaknesses whose impact you want to reduce. Create your own curriculum for travel, your own curriculum for relationships. What skills in relationships do you want to master? What skills in your career do you want to master, even if those skills might not be prioritized by your current employer? That is the first foundation, continuous learning, realizing that you are always going to be learning something. If you are not deliberate, you will keep learning things that don't have the most impactful contribution to the journey you want to take in your life. But if you are deliberate, wherever you are, no matter what you are doing, you can tailor the experiences you have in whatever environment to ensure that they become part of your curriculum for you to attain the growth you need to become the best at what you need to become the best at. That is the first foundation, the foundation of continuous learning. The challenge for you and I to create a curriculum that leads us to the future that we want to have. The second foundation is the foundation of deliberate self improvement. Deliberate self improvement in the areas that matter. Once you have a curriculum, now you have embarked on the curriculum, you start measuring your performance. You start finding coaching to help you improve in the areas you want to improve. You start noticing the mistakes you keep making over and over and figure out why you're making those mistakes and how to overcome the hitches or errors in your approach or thinking or how you play that lead you to keep making those errors. The foundation of deliberate self improvement. We sometimes mistakenly believe that we will improve if we play the game over and over and over. That's not true. When we practice over and over, we make permanent what we are practicing. What if we are practicing the wrong way? If we are practicing the wrong skill? What if we are practicing an inadequate skill, a faulty approach? What if we are practicing elements of skill that are no longer relevant based on where we are? Deliberate self-improvement helps you to focus on identifying those little adjustments that will push you forward, that will enable you to level up, that will put you at the head of the game, that will make you indispensable. That is the foundation of deliberate self-improvement. Being able to optimize to the utmost best all your strengths, particularly the strengths aligned to where you are going, and minimize the impact of your weaknesses by aligning yourself with a circle of other experts or other players in the realm you want to learn, by finding materials, whether they are courses, audio programs, videos, or books, or magazines and journals you need to read for you to become way better, to learn particular skills. Deliberate self-improvement also forces you to apply what you are learning so that you don't end up with a library at home, but you've only read less than 20% of that library if you are lucky. Otherwise, maybe you haven't even read any of the books you have bought the last 2 to 3 years. Deliberate self-improvement. The third foundation of personal growth. Remember, we are speaking about the foundations of personal growth, the foundations that help us grow beyond a structured environment. The third foundation is the foundation of cumulative growth. Cumulative growth. The value of this foundation is helping you to shift your attention from trying to learn everything now to realizing that you have time. You have time. This is a marathon. You will arrive at the end. And when you arrive at the end, it might not be as magnificent as you think it is, which is why you and I have to focus on cumulatively doing the very best in this moment. The next moment, the next day, the next week will take care of itself. If I do well right now, if I land this, if I'm building a wall and I position this brick best as I can, the 10th, 11th, 20th bricks that I'm going to place on this wall will be easy to do because I'm putting them cumulatively adding them onto a foundation that is secure. So if you're learning a language and you're learning the pronunciation, pronounce that word you're working on right now as best as you can. If you're learning a habit and you're learning to wake up early in the morning, even if you haven't reached the point of waking up and focusing on something, for now, if all you can do is focus on waking up at a specific time, focus on that habit because it is a cumulative process. Your growth compounds over time, but you only compound what has been started. A tiny little seed is planted in the ground and it compounds itself into a big, massive tree that has lots of fruit, but it starts with a seed. Over time, with the right action, step by step, you get there. That is the foundation of cumulative growth. That small choices compound into big results. Small choices compound into big consequences. Small actions compound into big victories. The fourth foundation of personal growth, the fourth foundation that will enable you to grow beyond an external structure and start leveraging an internal structure that assures you that you will achieve your goals. The fourth foundation is the foundation of periodic renewal. The foundation of periodic renewal. My question to you is, do you have any goals that you set in high school and you haven't accomplished those goals? Is it possible that one of the reasons why you are struggling to accomplish certain goals is because this is not their time? The time for those goals has passed. It's time to let them go. If your goal was to become the best or the most popular or the most recognized in a certain field, maybe the time for that goal is gone. It's time for you to renew your life, renew your priorities, renew your goals, renew the skills you're focusing on, renew your mindset, renew your beliefs about yourself, about other people, about your environment, renew your beliefs about your own responsibility to take charge of your life. It is that renewal can be painful. It can mean changing the story so that you no longer explain where you failed by what other people did or did not do, but by what you didn't know that time, but which you are willing to learn now so that your life can turn out to be different. Self-renewal, the foundation of periodic renewal. Renew your goals, renew your interests, renew your values, renew your vision. Do you need to change how you phrase your vision? And that is if you already have a vision written down for your own life. And if you don't, renew how you run your life so that you don't run your life in response to your circumstances, but you run your life dictated by a vision that you have thought about and prayed about and found coaching on so that you have a solid structure to fall back onto no matter what happens outside. Remember, the whole aim of this content I'm sharing with you is to stir you to turn inward and start working with a structure that is grounded inside, not outside. The foundation of periodic renewal. Some of the things you are pursuing 10 years ago don't have any more place in your life. Some of the relationships you had 10 years ago, unfortunately, maybe they don't have room in your life right now. And if they have room in your life right now, those relationships need to be refreshed. They need to be redefined. The meaning of those relationships needs to be renewed. The place of those relationships needs to be redefined. The foundation of periodic renewal because your life changes, your job changes, your values change, your vision grows, and growth is change, but it's positive change. Your priorities change. Some of the circles you surrounded yourself when you are in school or in college or in with a certain employer, they change because you have moved to a new environment where you are now required to embrace a different set of priorities. The fifth foundation for personal growth, the fifth foundation of personal growth. This is so powerful. It's so simple that we take it for granted. We don't do it. And yet every corporate does this. Every major organization that is successful does this. every athlete, every champion in the world does this. So the fifth foundation for personal growth is consistent measurement. Consistent measurement. I like what Peter Drucker, the guru for management and leadership, said, that what gets measured gets improved. What gets measured gets improved. I believe with all my heart that the reason why our goals fall by the wayside is because we don't measure. We don't measure how much input we are giving. We don't measure our effort. We don't measure how often we are showing up. We give up on measuring even before we give up on showing up. And because we are not measuring whether or not we are showing up, we don't know whether we are making any progress. This is an analogy that many people have used, but think about it. I live in Kansas in the United States right now. And I was looking at the map and looking at where Berlin, Germany is and where Tokyo, Japan is, and thinking of an airplane leaving Kansas, flying in that direction. Just a change of about 3 degrees when, if the aircraft changes its direction by 3 degrees, it will end up in a totally different direction. If it was headed to Japan, Tokyo, and it just turns 3 degrees, just 3 degrees, it will end up in Berlin. And that is the impact of small changes over time. But how can we know whether we are still headed to Tokyo or we are now headed to Berlin if we are not measuring? The foundation of consistent measurement. If you are not measuring, you do not have the insight you need to improve. Because number one, you don't even know whether you are doing it. And if you are doing it, you don't even know how well you are doing it. You don't know where you are failing. Measurement, I think this is something that needs to start being taught as early as preschool. How we can measure our efforts, how we can measure our consistency, how we can measure to what extent we have lagged or slipped from our initial goals. The foundation of consistent measurement. Remember, only what gets measured gets improved. What doesn't get measured sometimes doesn't even get done. Here is a bonus. This is from Stephen Covey. As a foundation for personal growth, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. In other words, what legacy are you trying to accomplish? What impact are you trying to accomplish? What value are you trying to add to the relationship, to the business, to the community you want to serve, to the employer you are working with, or the employer you want to start working with, to the client you're trying to gain? What is the end of this pursuit? I believe the champions are driven by the end. They enjoy the journey, and it's imperative that we enjoy the journey, but we enjoy the journey with the anticipation that it's leading us to a worthwhile end. Those are the 5 foundations for personal growth, with the bonus of beginning with the end in mind. I hope that that was valuable for you. Keep seeking a breakthrough in the areas that matter to you and keep growing deliberately. Remember, continuous learning, deliberate self-improvement, cumulative growth, periodic renewal, consistent measurement, and finally, begin with the end in mind. I wish you an amazing time. See you in the next video and subscribe.